This is Greg Bafidis, founder and chairman of the Posse List. I'm here at the Georgetown University Law Center for the conference Law Firm Evolution, Brave New World, or is it business as usual? And I have here as my guest Larry Ribstein, who is with the University of Illinois Law School, Associate Dean for Research. He was part of a panel discussion earlier today on creative destruction and innovation. Larry, an awful lot of material was covered, and I was wondering if you could, for our audience, basically summarize the points you were making with respect to the death of big law.
Well, the point I'm making is that big law firms, the major law firms, are based on a tenuous business model, what I call reputational capital, which is very difficult to maintain. It requires just the right set of incentives for lawyers to make sure that they contribute their efforts to building the law firm rather than just their own client lists. And I think that's always been the case, but it's getting more and more tenuous with the pressures that are being put on the model by things like the rise of in-house counsel, the various developing technologies, and ways to replace the things that big law used to do. So I think that it's very clear to me, anyway, that the fundamental model for big law firms is going to change. This could be just something as mild as outside financing of law firms, or different ways to finance law firms, or it could be something as radical as we move away from the whole idea of law firms and move to things like moving the practice of law into big consulting firms, or bring it out to places like Walmart or Tesco.
Do you think some of the comments that were made indicated that if we do maintain the law firm model, law firms will look more like corporations, where you'll have a chief executive officer and chief operating officer? Do you think that will be the future look?
Possibly. I think that if we move to these other variations on the practice of law that I mentioned, bringing it into consulting firms and so forth, then they will be run like standard corporations. But it's not clear that that will happen. It's not clear to me that that will happen if we keep law firms in something like their current form. I don't think they will remain in their current form, but I think that how law firms are managed really depends on what the business model of big law is going to be.
Do you think there are any law firms right now that basically get it and are moving toward understanding the innovations that have to be made?
I think that a lot of the law firms that were represented here at the conference are really striving to make themselves more relevant to clients and what clients want, and recognizing the various developments that I referred to in the paper. And I think that there's really no law firm as such that's yet ready to step completely out of its model, and I think that's quite easy to understand because the rules regulating the profession don't really allow the changes yet that I'm talking about. I think we need to get rid of those rules or modify them significantly before the basic business model of big law can be changed.
One of the comments that Mark Chandler made, who is general counsel of Cisco, and obviously he should know, is that because firms are going to have to become much more competitive, he's going to have an easier time shopping. Do you think it's the fact that very much that it's going to be client-driven? They're going to basically tell law firms, you better change, you better innovate?
Well, I mean, just asking the question I find is sort of curious. I mean, every business has to be customer-driven. But I'm not surprised that you asked the question, because the law business really traditionally hasn't been. It's been lawyer-driven. And the regulation, of course, of the legal profession has been to a significant extent lawyer-driven. And I think that's what's allowed law firms to insulate themselves from their market. But one of the points I make in my paper is that that's changing significantly. And I think those changes are finally making law like other businesses in being driven by their customers.
What do you think from this conference? I mean, obviously there's many firms from this conference, but what do you think law firms are finally realizing as being the most important thing they do, the first most important thing where they start?
Well, I think it just goes back to my previous question of serving the client,
Just serving the client.
and understanding what clients actually want instead of trying to fit clients' needs into whatever the law firms think that they want to do.
Okay. Will you be participating in any more panels during this conference?
Not during this conference, no.
How long have you been associated with Georgetown? Is this the first time you've done this conference, or?
No, I actually participated in a previous conference in 2008.
Which was similar in structure and similar
It was
as far as
right,
topics?
a similar type of conference.
Okay, great. Larry, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.